Broadcasting live from somewhere in the Shadow Realm, this is YuGiOh Duel Links Talk. Here's your host, Doug Dimmadoo.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of YuGiOh Duel Links Talk. Today, we're going to talk about a deck that was kind of just a fun one to mess around with. This is more just for those casual, not so much competitive type of plays. But yeah, this one's pretty cool because I know some people do have an affinity for warrior type decks. And mine's got a little bit of a surprise factor to it. I actually, just for the heck of it, because I'm just messing around with all the different skills right now. Right now I have this deck with Weevil, using Weevil's Parasite Infestation skill. Now the reason being is because I really just can't think of a skill that is just more beneficial than the others. Yeah, you could get your classic ones like Balance and Restart and all those other types of skills that just naturally give you an advantage. But since this is just for fun, I tend to throw off my opponents pretty easily just from having Parasite Infestation with Weevil, because all of a sudden they're thinking, oh no, here comes another Weevil burn deck. This is not going to be too great. So they may play their hand a lot differently if they're going first than potentially what they normally would if they were going up against another type of deck. Now, what I have here, and I coined the nickname Weevil's Warriors, and this is just a warrior-based deck. I'll just start going through some of the monsters here. First, you have Knight of the Red Lotus. This is one you could get out of the Crimson Kingdom box set. It's a level 6 warrior, 2100 attack, 1800 defense. If you have exactly 3 normal monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand by removing from play 2 normal monsters from your graveyard. Once per turn, you can select and special summon 1 level 4 or lower normal monster from your graveyard. So, the reason why I like this card is just because, you have the option to run a few normal type warriors. They seem to be pretty popular. They got a lot of higher attack. At least now with some of the other cards that are coming out, some of these high attack warriors are starting to kind of slip a little bit in terms of the power category. But some of the normal warriors that I include in this deck are Axe Raider, if you remember, just that ultra rare level 4, 1700 attack, 1150 defense. Yeah, so this was powerful probably at the beginning of the game. Not so much now, but hey, it's a normal warrior monster that could potentially be a combo with Knight of the Red Lotus. Then I also run copies of Warrior Digreffer. It's a level 4 warrior, 1700 attack, 1600 defense. So yeah, those are the normal warriors that I just run in this deck. There are other ones that you could use. It just depends on your play style. But then I also run Light Ray Greffer, level 4 warrior, 1700 attack, 1600 defense. You can special summon this card from your hand by discarding 1 level 5 or higher light monster. Once per turn, you can discard 1 light monster, banish one light monster from your deck. So then I also run Day Greffer, level 4 warrior. It's also a Gemini, and it's got a 1700 attack, 1600 defense. This card is treated as a normal monster while face up on the field or in the graveyard. While this card is a normal monster on the field, you can normal summon it to have it become an effect monster with this effect. During your end phase, you can target 1 equipped spell card in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. You can only use this effective Night Day Greffer once per turn. So this one also goes hand in hand with that Knight of the Red Lotus card, because at least if it's sitting in your graveyard, it does count as a normal monster. So, that could come to play pretty well with that effect. I also run here 2 copies of the Hunter with 7 weapons. It's a level 3 warrior, 1000 attack, 600 defense. When this card is normal summoned, declare 1 type of monster. When battling that type of monster, increase the attack of this card by 1000 points during the damage calculation. So if you know the type of deck that your opponent's playing, if they're playing dinosaurs or if they're playing dragons or something that you know exactly what they're going for, or if they already have a monster on the field, you pretty much already have a 2k beater built in with the Hunter with 7 weapons. So if you get multiple copies of this card, yeah, you can definitely run it in this type of deck. The next card I added in here just because it was in the most recent Duelathon. It was the reward. It's Dash Warrior. It's a warrior with 600 attack and 1200 defense. If this card attacks, it gains 1200 attack during the damage step only. So if Dash Warrior is attacking, it's got an 1800 attack, which is still pretty good. So, you could have that in your deck or not. It's really up to you. But then I also have Freed the Matchless General the level 5 warrior, 2300 attack, 1700 defense. Negate any spell effects that target this card, and if you do, destroy that spell card. During your draw phase, instead of conducting your normal draw, you can add one level 4 or lower warrior type monster from your deck to your hand. This card must be face up on the field to activate and to resolve this effect. So if you can have multiple copies of this card, this one's really good as well, and I do like to have some level 5 warrior monsters in here just for the sake of the super rare Feast of the Wild level 5. But anyway, I'll get to that in a second. The last monster that I have in here is Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight, the level 7 warrior, 2300 attack, 2100 defense. You already know what he does. If this is the only card in your hand, you can normal summon it without tributing. So overall, really powerful effect, especially if your hand is thinning out. And in this deck, it definitely can, because I like to run a lot of equip cards in this deck, and I run field spells in here as well. So usually things are going to be on the field, at least from the spell perspective, and then just piling on the field with other monsters that should be, some of them should be getting destroyed by battle. So your hand's going to be pretty light, it seems, during most of these duels. So just going into the spell cards, I run a Feast of the Wild level 5. You special summon up to 2 level 5 warrior type monsters from your hand and or graveyard, but their effects are negated. Also, for the rest of this turn, they cannot attack. So I just use that for Freed the Matchless General. If you have other level 5 warriors that are stronger, because I'm kind of limited right now in the amount of warriors that I have. So for now, it's just Freed the Matchless General, but I feel like I can improve on that with Feast of the Wild level 5. That is a super rare that you can get out of Crimson Kingdom. So yeah, take advantage of that if you're running this type of deck. Next, I run Sorcerous Spell Wall. It's a field spell card where all monsters you control gain 300 attack during your turn only. All monsters you control gain 300 defense during your opponent's turn only. So that kind of just keeps my level 4 monsters in, just kind of in the right range of where they should be to keep up with a lot of the current monsters that we're dealing with pretty high attacks. So even though your Axe Raider and your Warrior Digrepher are sitting there at 1700 attack apiece, at least during your turn, the Sorcerer's Spell Wall will boost them up to a 2000 attack, which should be able to keep up with quite a few monsters. So yeah, that's why I run that card. But then also too, I run 2 copies of Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. It's an equip spell card where you equip only to a warrior type monster. It gains 300 attack. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can remove from play 2 warrior type monsters in your graveyard to add this card to your hand. So at least what this does is it has a bit of a recycling aspect to it. So in case you're kind of later in the game and you've already expended a few monsters that are sitting in your graveyard, you can always activate Divine Sword Phoenix Blade's effect if it's in your graveyard as well to get it back into your hand. So that's why I really like running copies of the card, and everything in this deck is a warrior, so you could equip it to any monster that we have here. Then I also like to run a copy of Gravity Axe Scrawl, and it's an equipped spell where the equipped monster gains 500 attack. Monsters your opponent controls cannot change their battle positions. So I kind of like that too. I like to see this card, especially when you're going up against just somebody playing around with a clown control deck where they're constantly changing the positions of their monsters. This kind of stops them in their tracks if you have Gravity Axe. So overall, really good card. And again, with the 500 attack boost, really keeps some of your warrior monsters more formidable and really keeps them up with some of the stronger monsters that you will be seeing. But again, this is for casual duels. So anyway, next we got 2 enemy controllers. Just for the heck of it, if you got them, use them. You know what they do. You could either change the position of one of your opponent's monsters, or you contribute one of your own monsters to take control of your opponent's monster until the end of the turn. So, yeah, that's really on you. You put that in there or not. If you're just kind of playing around with this deck, you don't necessarily need to throw enemy controller in there, but, whatever. It is what it is. Then I also run a copy of the Warrior Returning Alive. It's a spell card where you target one warrior-type monster in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. So, say for example, my Freed the Matchless General, which I really like having out on the field, ended up getting destroyed by a card effect or in battle or whatever. I can fish him back out with the Warrior Returning Alive. It would be a good card to have. You can run multiple copies of this, and you could do real well. Just to kind of keep recycling warriors and getting them back into your hand and hopefully just overwhelming your opponent one way or another. But yeah, just kind of the basic strategy of it is just to see how many warriors you can get onto the field and take advantage of the equipped cards and the field spell, and just kind of eventually try and use your quantity and quality to kind of overpower your opponent. So far, so good. I mean, I've played a few casual duels with it, kind of in the gold rank range, and it's fared pretty well with some of the other casual decks that are playing around. But this one, yeah, it's definitely not by any stretch of the imagination a competitive rank up type of deck. I'm sure if you add a lot of different pieces to it, or add a lot more of those meta spell and trap cards, it could possibly be a lot more. I guess a lot more competitive, but just as far as just playing around, and also just as a reminder too, this is a Weevil deck with Parasite Infestation, so it also kind of adds that element of surprise too, as you're kind of going up against your opponent. Your opponent's trying to keep up, and suddenly there's a Parasite on top of the deck, inflict 1,000 life points of damage for summoning it onto the field, and your opponent kind of loses a draw in that sense. So that's why it's just a pretty funny set up with that skill for a warrior deck. It's not something that you would typically expect, but just for the heck of it, since this is just kind of one of those play around, have fun with the type of decks, I think it's a good fit. But anyway, that's kind of it for the deck profile for this Weevil's Warriors deck here. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's something similar that you ran, or if you have any kind of fun, casual, kind of more troll deck type of ideas, I'd love to hear them. Reach out to me on Twitter at YuGiOh Deck Talk. It's all one word, at YuGiOh Deck Talk, and I'd like to bring it up in a future podcast. So anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.